Yo, 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 this is candibknittin. I'm Candy B. I be knitting. And today I'm going to update you on a couple of projects I've been working on, give you some kind of future plans, and show you a recent purchase of mine. So first project I want to show y'all, I know you've been waiting with bated breath. I've been making this adventurer's hat for Mr. Rulud, and this is based on Daniel Yuhas' sorting hat pattern. And I have good news and I have bad news. So the bad news first, I finished it. I found the beading wire. I went to the craft store, got beading wire. My concern was the beading wire was going to make it too heavy and it would just flop down. But instead, the beading wire is so light, it's not really giving a lot of structure, and the yarn is weighing it down. So that did not work the way I thought it was going to. But the good news is I have a plan B, and I want to show you my plan B right quick. So this hat is completely done. The knitting's done. I actually did do the beading wire into the I-cord bind off. I don't know if I'm probably gonna, it's not doing anything, it's not helping the situation, but also I would have to go and like dig it out. And so I think it's gonna just stay in there for now because it's not really hurting anything. But me and Mr. Rulud and I decided to do a little brainstorming and get a little bit crafty. And I have to credit Mr. Rulud. He's the executive producer of this show, and as such, he bought one of those big circular kind of reflector things for photography to enhance the light, I suppose, and we've never used it. But the inside of it has this metal ring that I've cut out of that, that I don't know what the formal name is. I don't know anything about photography. But just imagine a big piece of foil around this, and you put it underneath you to do the lighting stuff. And so yeah, this is a big metal band that was inside of that happens to be almost exactly the same size as the circumference of this hat. So now plan B, which I think is going to be a really good plan, is to just fold this over and sew this on the inside of this hat. And then this will be done. I'm gonna do some pinning first just to make sure everything's in the right place. But I think this is it's gonna work. I mean, pretty, not bad for, literally a costume. So I'm not too pressed about making it like practical or anything like that. And then the last part of that project is this hat is Encore by Plymouth. It's like a heavy worsted Aran weight acrylic wool blend, and then you knit a strip of fabric on the bias and put like a contrasting rim around this area here. And I am now working on that. I kind of paused on it just because I was like, is this hat gonna work or not? And now that it is, this is some of my OG hand spun, and it's just gonna add a bit of texture. I think this is like a Lincoln cross or something like that. And you just knit this little band, and then you sew it to the top of you sew it around this part of the hat, so you have like this little contrasting band, and then that'll be done. Probably couple more weekends of that. Sewing always takes time for me because I have to really think about what I'm doing and take my time. The next project I want to update y'all on is this Stripy t-shirt that I've been working on, and this is all hand spun. I got this gray Gotlin, and then I have this what is it? Polworth. And it's like a little fade situation, so it's got all these different colors in it. And it's knit in pieces, and so I'm on the front. And it's a V-neck, and so you knit the first half of the front panel, and then you split and you knit one half of the one V, and then when I'm done with this, I'll knit the other half of the V, and then I'm in a whole back panel, and then you seam those two things together. And this has been quite a feat for me. You know, I thought the hardest part of this was going to be like weighing out my hand spun and making sure I have enough yarn, because it seemed pretty straightforward, like, oh, it's just a front panel, back panel. But I've really had to work hard at this. This is where's my the Stripy t-shirt by what's her name, Sarah Hatton, and it came in this little pamphlet. And if y'all know anything about magazine patterns, they're usually short on space, and so there is a brevity to the directions, and there's not a lot of extra fluff or explanations or tutorials or anything like that. They pretty much assume that you know what you're doing, and it's just like, go for it. And so I've had to do a lot of thinking. The toughest part so far is I'm not sure. This is pro tip: read the entire pattern before you start knitting. I kind of assumed I knew what was happening, and it's just like, not quite. So you actually, to do the t-shirt, the drop shoulder, you actually cast on stitches for the sleeve, and you cast on stitches like at the beginning of every row, and you can see I'm striping here. And so you're doing v-neck shaping, you're striping, you're doing shoulder shape, like the side shoulder shaping, and so you're increasing here, you're decreasing here, and you're keeping the stripe pattern. And I'm weighing my yarn to make sure I have enough hand spun. And so I really had to, I went from this to literally writing out row by row what I needed to do and what my stitch count was going to be. But I figured it out. Like, I really thought for a second, I was like, maybe I just don't do the sleeves, and this is just going to be like a vest top or a sleeveless top. But I just kind of had to think about it, and what I ended up doing was casting on with the yarn from the row below and then slipping stitches, so I could keep the same stripe pattern. I know I'm overthinking it because this is going to be like all in my underarm and probably get felted together anyway, but it was really throwing me for a loop, because, you know, if you cast on with one color, you know, and you're casting on like 7 stitches, so it's like, do you carry the yarn over? Do you cut the yarn? I'm very hesitant to cut yarn unless the pattern specifically says, you know, cut color A. And even then I'm thinking like, okay, how can I get away with not cutting my yarn? But I figured it out. I took a lot of notes, so hopefully I can replicate this on the other side. The other thing is, I wanted to do the front first because I'm limited on hand spun. And so I was thinking, okay, if anything is going to be, you know, if the stripes are going to play out perfectly, I want them to play out perfectly on the front, and then whatever's left over is going to go in the back, and no one's really going to see the back. The issue with that is the pattern has you knit the front, the pattern has you knit the back first. And so because I'm knitting the front first, the whole pattern is just like, oh, just do what you did on the back. Just do what you did on the back. And so it's like, oh, maybe I should have knit the back first, or read more closely what you're doing on the back. And then the crux of this, oh, the other thing is they don't even tell you like what cast on to use. It's like, hey, just cast on stitches. And so I'm like, okay, what's going to be the best way to do this? And it's not like a terrible pattern. The pattern's accurate. It's just, I have to think a little bit harder. But there's ribbing on this V-neck edge, and I didn't realize, because I assumed I knew what was going to happen in the pattern, and I looked at the picture and thought I could tell what was happening in the picture. But this is like a stockinette panel, and then the edge here is a ribbed edge, a 1x1 ribbed edge. And you actually, when you do the shoulder shaping, you cast off all the stitches, so you end up with just one long strip, and this actually gets sewn to the back, and so you actually do have to knit the back. This would make sense if you actually knit the pattern before. But very long story short, I'm going to end up with stitches on hold anyway on the front, and I'm going to have to knit the whole back anyway to figure out how long to make this, because basically this is going to become one strip that I'm going to have to sew to the back neck, so the back neck will have the same ribbing, if that makes sense. So a little challenging, a little bit more like I said, I really thought, oh, this is going to be a really simple pattern, and then I can just concentrate on keeping track of my hand spun. But the hand spun part has not been the challenging part. It's mostly me like being like, okay, what do I do now? And I need to write this whole thing out, and I kind of need to make some decisions. And yeah, it's a lot of like at the same time kind of stuff, and that's not my strong suit. And so far so good. I'm quite proud of myself. I seem to still be on gauge. I thought I was gonna run out. I thought I had counted the stripes perfectly, and I thought, long story short, there's 5 colors, and I'm about to be on my 3rd color, and I feel like eventually I'm gonna have to figure out how to use all 5 colors on the front, basically, because I do want all 5 colors on the front. So I don't know how that's gonna play out, but we'll see. Because I thought I needed more stripes or less stripes or whatever, but so far I'm doing pretty good on hand spun. I have about 40 grams left in this ball here, and I think I'm well on my way. I do think I'll have enough to do the front and the back panel. I just don't know about ribbing, because I tend to be very generous with my ribbing, and that's why, like I said before, I did a provisional cast on, and then I'm going to pick up stitches and just knit down and do my ribbing. On that note, because I was concerned about running out of the gray, I showed y'all this is Gotlin, and it's like a gray Gotlin. And last time I saw y'all, I showed y'all some Navajo churro that I have that's also gray, and I thought I would spin that up just in case I don't have enough, and this could be kind of my plan B. So I have since done, this is a pretty generous sample, but I feel like I have to make a generous sample in order to really get an idea of what I'm doing. This is probably about 50 grams, and then I'm going to ply it back on itself. I'll do a center pull ball and ply it back on itself, and it'll be my little test skein. It's funny because it looked so similar to the Gotlin, and probably from your perspective it does look similar, but it's very interesting because this is like a gray sheep. Like this is gray, like the individual hairs are gray. And then when I got to the Navajo churro, it looks gray, but it's actually a lot of white and black mixed together making gray, which, you know, it looks pretty similar, but at the same time, it's just like, it's a bit of a nuanced idea. And there's also a little bit of brown in here too, so it's like a warmer gray. And so it's just very interesting, which, hold on to that thought. We're going to come back to that thought. So it was just, it's funny how something kind of looked very similar, and then when you actually put your hands into it, it's like, oh, that's actually a little bit different. But like I said, if I just do the ribbing in a different yarn, it's not going to call attention to itself as if I had them in the same skein. The other thing someone mentioned in my last video was, you can always, if you have 2 yarns that are kind of similar but not quite, you can always alternate skeins, and that's something I can do on the back panel if I do truly run out, to kind of like, almost like creating a fade. And so that is an option, but we'll see. So this is what I got, and I guess I'll transition into what I've been spinning and then my recent purchase. So spun up some Navajo churro. I'm gonna have to ply this, finish it, probably do like a little swatch with it and see how it's comparing with the Gotlin in that project. Then I have that bag of millins that I got. I've started to spin that up, and what I'm doing here is a rainbow fractal. So you can't tell because violet is on the outside, but inside here is long strips and rainbow order. So there's Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, or indigo violet in this skein. And I'm actually doing a fractal with this. And so what I did was I had long strips of each color, and I broke those strips in half. And so this is 1/2 spun from red all the way through violet. And then the remaining bits I broke into quarters. And those are going to be short repeats, and it's going to be 4 repeats of the Roy G. Biv sequence. And then I'm going to apply those 2 together and it's going to be kind of like seeing how the colors of the rainbow play with each other when they're side by side. And this is my first time doing a fractal, and you could probably Google and get better information on how to spin a fractal. Literally, I just kind of like Googled spinning fractal and just kind of glazed over a couple of things, and I was like, okay, I think I'm on the right path. But if you want to go deeper down that rabbit hole, there's a lot more to it. And different. It's a kind of like a way, when you have the short and long color repeats, it can be a way to create a gradient that is a little bit softer than like a chain ply per se. And so we're in September. And one of my goals this year was to be more creative, be more playful. And one of those things for me is to kind of just see, just experiment and just have fun with it, instead of being like, okay, I have to have X, I have the projects going. I've shown that this is going to be a thing for me for a while. Like, I am a knitter, I am a spinner. I don't have to like justify, buying yarn or spinning yarn, because I know I'm going to use it, and I know that this is a commitment for me. And so now I can kind of tap back into that kind of playfulness, that kind of discovering new things. And so I hope, by doing this, I can kind of reinvigorate those creative juices. And so, speaking of colors, the purchase I made, there's a company called LIndsay. They're a wool company in Massachusetts, New England area. And I was looking at the website because I want to, another one of my goals this year is I want to use more of like the 1s and 2 skeins that I have of certain things, especially like my hand spun. I go out and I buy, 1 or 2 hand dyed braids, and then I don't have enough to like do a whole project. So basically ends up enough for like a yoke or a hat or something like that. And so in order to use more of my one-off braids of hand spun, I was like, okay, I'm going to need some kind of solids or semi-solids to kind of balance this out. And I've been researching a while, and I landed on LIndsay. They seem to sell, they sell yarn, they sell bumps of yarn. You can get like 20-pound bags of yarn. But they also sell by the pound, and a pound is more than enough to spend for a sweater for myself, especially if I'm going to supplement it with things from my stash. And so what I started with, I started just dumping everything into my cart because everything looked so great. And I was like, well, I've never ordered them from them before. So they have sampler boxes that have a mixture of the things that they offer. And I got the Corriedale dyed top sampler from them. And this is 5 to 10 grams of each of the dyed tops that they sell. And they sell these by the pound or by the bump. And the reason I wanted this, one, to try out the company, see if I liked it. And 2, I have a certain project I want to work on. And I was just like, well, before I buy a pound of this yarn, let me see if I actually like the color. And this is the color. Spoiler alert, I like this color. I have since purchased a pound of this for a specific hand spun project I'm working on. And then of course I want to see what other colors they offer. I ordered a pound of this, and then I ordered a pound of the magenta, because those were my 2. This one, I knew I had a project in mind for this, and then this one just was my favorite color out of all of these colors, and I would not mind having an entire sweater of this. The other thing, so I ordered the sampler. It came really quick, great customer service. You don't have to pay shipping on the samplers. And they give you coupons for future purchases if you buy a sampler. And so I was like, okay, that's 2 birds, 1 stone, because I wanted the sampler anyway. And so I got the sampler, and then I got the coupon code, and then I bought some more yarn. The other thing I've bought, going back to the idea of color and playing, I got a pound of this red, the yellow, and the blue, with the idea that I'm going to start. I have a drum carder that's usually in frame. I don't know if it's in frame right now. And I have hand cards, and I want to kind of just see I think the concept is called optical dyeing, when you have two colors side by side that blend together to make one color rather than, you know, mixing the dye to make a color. And so I'm just going to play around with the primary colors and just do some weighing. I have a scale, I got my drum carder, and just see how many different colors I can make and what types of blends I can make. You know, start with 1 ounce of red, 1 ounce of blue, and see what type of purple that is, and then add more red. And just, you know, see, you know, what kind of gradients and what kind of colors I can create, and document some things. And I think that's just going to be a kind of a fun project for myself, especially as we go into the fall, winter months. I'm spending more time indoors. The garden is kind of dying down, and so I think that's going to be a lot of fun for me. The other things I got, so I bought the sampler, and then I purchased this. This is called Rust. I got the magenta, and then I got the red, yellow, blue. And then, of course, I had to pick up some other things, so I'm going to show you those things really quick. Then I'm going to get out of your face. And then it comes with this little piece of paper, and they tell you what each of the colors are, and it's all lined up. The Corriedale, they actually get dyed and imported from Spain. But the other thing that I think is even more cool about RH Lindsay, they're in Massachusetts, and they have kind of like what they call a wool pool. And they just gather wool from all the local shepherds. And so there's they have, you know, they're in Massachusetts. They get wool from Connecticut, Pennsylvania, everywhere, you know, in that New England type area. And so I got a pound of this taupe color, and this is, they bring together all of these shepherds, and then they just mix it by color. And so all the white goes together, all the gray goes together, all the black goes together. And so this is like all the brownish stuff. They put it together, and this is actually scoured and carded. They do sell comb top. This is not combed, this is just carded. And I just think this is a really beautiful color. Brown goes with everything. I can't imagine a situation where I wouldn't want brown. There is a little bit of VM in this, or vegetable matter in this, but I don't really care. They say if you don't want vegetable matter, to go more for the comb top stuff. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Of course, I had to get, they had some local cheviot that is combed, not combed, this is the carded cheviot, and it's just undyed cheviot, and cheviot is my favorite to spin, and so I'm gonna have fun with this. Then they just had this one-off, and I'm a little disappointed in this one. I didn't get a real true feeling of what the color was, but I'm not mad at it. I don't have any regrets. It does feel like they sent me more than a pound of this, though. This is Tarhi, and this is the color Cranberry, and this is one of like the one-offs when they were trying to figure out their line of dyed yarns. And so they just had a little bit of this left over, and so I ordered some of this. I thought it was going to be more pinky, but it definitely seems more red to me. But the reason I wanted the Tarhi, I've never spun Tarhi before, and allegedly Tarhi is really good for hand-spun socks, especially if you're not doing nylon or superwash. Allegedly, Tarhi is really great for that. So I'm obviously gonna have a lot of fun. I don't, how many socks can you get out of a pound of Tarhi? I don't know, and I might end up blending this with some silk maybe, just to add some durability. And then last but certainly not least, and as soon as I show this to y'all, it is going into my garage. This, I had to get a little bit of fleece, and this is some raw cheviot from their local shepherds, and so I'm gonna wash this and get this cleaned up. It is quite dirty, and so this is not staying in my craft room until after this episode. It's leaving the craft room, and so that's that. Yeah, it's like $17 for a pound of the dyed fiber, and like $9 to $10 for a pound of the undyed, you know, raw wool. And so I have not found a place that can beat that. Like, I feel like Knit Picks, the Wool of the Andes stuff, is pretty reasonably priced, and you can get solid colors, and they probably have more colors, but just, you know, just by the pound, it's, you know, it's not even comparable. Like if you need like 1 or 2 colors, yeah, wool of the Andes is great. Wool of the Andes, a lot of people don't care for because it's just a bit on the rougher side, and I think this Corriedale is very nice and very soft. And like I said, I'm kind of getting into bigger projects with my hand spun, and also finding things that complement the hand spun I already have. And so I think this is going to carry me a very long way. Pleased as punch, as I would say. That's all I wanted to show y'all for now. Obviously, I have a table behind me covered in stuff, so definitely more to come. If you want to see me in between now and the next episode with even more stuff to talk about, you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm at Rulud on Instagram. You can also email me, candibknittin@gmail.com. I'm on Ko-fi as Rulud. Until next time, peace.